Welcome to part two. I have been talking to my friend Cheryl Scruggs, who wrote a book called Thriving Beyond Belief: How to Be Courageous, Rooted, and Thriving Women. And I'll just have to tell you, we had a really great time laying this out. Cheryl has a lot of wisdom, and there are a lot of self help books out there and things to help you grow. But I think Cheryl has tapped into something really, really special. And that's exactly what we've been talking about in part one. If you haven't heard part one, you're going to want to hear all about her story and all the things that she has leading up to the actual thing we're going to talk about today, which is the Lost Arts list. I love this list. I think when you hear the list and you see the topics, you are going to be challenged in all of these areas. Because as human beings, as the way God created us, we are meant for connection. And we are meant for connection with God, with ourselves, and with others, our husband, our children, our friends, and our family. And I loved this conversation. I'm going to let you get right to it so that you can understand exactly about the lost arts and get right to it. So let's go. Welcome to the Moms Like Us podcast, where moms just like you learn strategies, systems, and skills through expert interviews and real-life insight designed to take your marriage, mothering, and home to the expert level. Hi, I'm Mona Corwin, your mom mentor and host, author, international speaker, and the founder of the Moms Like Us Academy. I've been coaching moms for over 25 years, and I have some really good news for you. Motherhood isn't a natural talent. It's a skill, and you can learn it. You can crush it at motherhood instead of motherhood crushing you. So let's get to today's show.
So what does that mean? You know, there's just so much to all that too. I wish I could explain it all right now, but
Get the book, girls.
yeah.
Totally get the book. Let's go through these lost arts. And you've got a list of them in the book.
Here I'll read.
You got them in front of you?
I do.
All right. I'm going to fix my hair.
So I think what's important is I'm going to say I'm going to read one and then I'm going to give you 5 seconds
Yeah.
because I want you to think about the word. So I'm going to start out with the lost art of, okay? So the first one, and I kind of put in there, I said the things on my list are all very simple. Nothing is earth-shattering or revelatory. There are many, many more lost arts out there. And I'm sure you have your own ideas as too, but here's my running list.
Right.
What I know has worked for me. The lost art of thinking. I mean,
Because it is an art.
It is an
I'm
art.
be quiet.
No, go for it.
I'm used to us talking. No, go ahead and read them all. Then we'll hop back.
The lost art of resting. Here's what I hear. I don't have time to rest. I don't agree. I frankly just don't agree. Right? The lost art of reading to learn. The lost art of writing. That doesn't mean being an author. We'll talk about that in a second. The lost art of paying attention. That was the first one I thought of.
Yeah, totally.
The lost art of conversation. The lost art of phone calls. Ooh, here's a big one. This is my word for the year. The lost art of gratitude.
Aww.
The lost art of savoring the moment. The lost art of play and laughter. The lost art of sharing meals, being at home. The lost art of courage.
So good. So good.
And then I say making time to think deeply is a foundational lost art of being human.
Yes.
I think we've forgotten how to be human.
Let's go through that list. The lost art of being human. And I just recently was studying some stuff on AI. And I'm wondering, as I'm looking at this, we lose all of this
Hmm.
with some of this artificial intelligence that's coming.
Oh,
And the lost art of thinking, we can't, I don't want to blame everything on social media because I don't think that's fair.
yeah,
But this rapid, uh, this to this to this flittering,
yeah,
I think now, like just sitting still in a room and thinking about something and allowing your mind to consider things
yeah.
isn't something that a lot of people can do. And I wonder whether my grandchildren will be able to do that very well.
I think about it all the time. What I've noticed, so we do have three grandchildren, two daughters.
That's what I thought. I'm like, I know she's got two girls.
Yeah. So there's one is 6, one is 3, and then little River, Jeff is just delighted. A
Oh
grandson,
boy.
he's 9 months. But, I worry, I know I'm not supposed to worry. I know the Bible tells me not to worry, but I do. Because what I'm worried about is even what I notice in them is they don't sit still very often. And look, I mean, kids are kids, so I'm not
They're
saying don't be a
little.
kid. I'm just saying just moving, 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 right? And yes, some of it is just being a child. So you don't want to say, well, don't, make them just sit still all the time on a couch. No, I mean, I'm not saying that. But I wonder as they get older, there's so much coming at them. Even the shows that are on that they're watching. I'm thinking, I can't even keep up with this. What are they doing on
Well,
this show?
you haven't played Minecraft yet.
I have not.
Okay. Well, I have grandbaby boys that are 11 and 9, and they love Minecraft, and they can build things on the computer. And my son says this is good because they have to think ahead and they're building and
Oh,
all this
oh,
other stuff.
oh, oh,
Okay. Well, it's going like this. I don't know how, and things are coming at them, and I'm like, I there's no process here. This is
yeah,
totally reaction. And yes, they're building something, so they kind of know when they're building, but it literally makes my stomach hurt because it's
yeah.
going so fast. But it is that constant flitting back and forth, back and forth.
But
And
I
social media is now they're telling us in the social media world, as I'm posting for my moms, it used to be um, I would want to do everything at 20 minutes. Of course I did. And then 10 minutes, they wanted it 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, well, I can do 10 minutes. And all my mornings with Mona were 10, 14 minutes. And now, friend, they want us to go to 2 minutes,
yeah.
right? Now
Hmm.
it's 1 minute
No,
and for real. And now they said they are pushing and they will push out into the algorithm 6 seconds.
no.
I'm sorry. When I heard that, my heart sunk. I got a lump in my throat, and I said, this is destroying a generation that is able to even consume this.
Yeah,
Number one, I can't teach you anything in 6 seconds. And I can't even make you want to I can't even make you remember me in 6 seconds.
yeah,
But what they're doing is they're kind of it as far as I'm concerned, it's like there's a plot here. I feel like there is. And they're using me to
hmm,
destroy my moms.
yeah.
My
Well,
moms are becoming this and they're using me. I'm so sad. I'm
yeah.
not going to do it.
It begs the question, though. What are we trying to accomplish? What are we after here? You
Good
know?
question. What's
And
your answer?
don't get me started.
Well, they told us this was going to be helpful. They
Yeah,
told us this was a way to reach people that we couldn't reach before. That's what they
yeah,
told us.
yeah. I just think we have to take some of these lost arts
Hmm.
and we have to
Yeah.
incorporate them.
Yeah.
And what I would,
Totally.
this is what I would challenge. I would challenge um, to see how you're doing after you try to put some of this into practice, right?
Yeah.
So here's some questions. One of the things that I did with the book, and I intentionally did this. as strong of a Christian as I am, and the Bible's my whole life. I mean, Jesus is my whole life. I intentionally didn't like put a scripture every other paragraph because I wanted to capture people's thoughts. Like, what are you actually thinking about? Where are you truly? And then obviously God's in here because
Right, obviously.
that's just who I am.
Yeah,
But
of course.
I also wrote the book with not a chapter. A lot of books are, I'm not saying this is wrong. I'm just saying I know what I do with this, but there's a lot of times a chapter and then questions at the end, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want it that way. I'm weird. I get kind of rebellious sometimes. And I thought, what if I ask
No
questions
wonder we're friends.
throughout? What if I ask questions throughout,
Yeah.
right?
And you do.
So,
And you give ideas all the way throughout.
well, and that's on purpose. That was very purposeful. So here in the second chapter is called Getting from Here to There. So it's basically how do I get from here where I am to there, which is
Growth.
thriving, right?
Yeah.
And so in the middle of that chapter, here are a couple of the questions. And I say, stop, like just, stop for a second. Do you want to have a richer, more satisfying, do you want to have richer, more satisfying relationships?
Mhm.
I mean, I don't even know if people think about that.
Hmm.
Or they just
Not until
go,
they're
oh,
falling apart.
huh?
Not till they
Yeah,
look up and go, I don't have a friend. I haven't had lunch with anybody.
yeah, yeah,
Or they're sad and they have nobody to really tell.
right. And that, Mona, is a key thing right now, too. The mental health uh, field right now is just, oh my gosh, so saturated. But a lot of that has to do with the loneliness factor. There's so much loneliness. And that's why I encourage this whole, well, really all of this, but community in particular. And we've always talked about community, right?
Yeah. You and I
And
have,
how
yeah, for
important that
sure.
is. And thinking back though on how God created us for relationships. So when we don't have them and they're not vulnerable and thriving, then we feel lonely. That's
Mm-hmm.
just where we're gonna be. Do you want a more intimate marriage? I think a lot of people are like, I'm married, this is what I'm doing. And a lot of people look at intimate as sex, right? And yes, that can be part of it. That is part of it. But what does an intimate marriage look like? Are we just kind of waving at each other in the hallway? And okay, I'll see you tonight. And then we never have any conversation. I mean, are we doing things together? Are we dating? you know, I mean, just
You know,
things like
as
that.
two older women that talk about relationships the whole time that we've been friends, I've been telling moms, y'all, it just gets better. And I don't know how to convince you of this,
Yeah,
but the intimacy is so much greater. There's a
yeah,
reason why people don't get divorced after they've been together for a while,
yeah,
because there can be, they can be just, going through the motions, but a good vibrant marriage that's going on for a long time, there is a level of intimacy. I've known my husband since I was 14 years old. I would not trade my 20s, my 30s, my 40s. I wouldn't trade any of that
yeah,
for the connection that I have with my husband. I
yeah.
wouldn't trade it for it at all. And it just gets better. And interestingly enough, I have a mentor who's 79, and I was talking to her about it. I'm like, okay, like, how can I love my husband well if he starts to want to retire? And like, how can I be a good wife during this next period of our lives? And she said, "Oh, honey, it only gets better." And I thought to myself, there's no way. There's no way it can be better. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, but I know her and her husband.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's like, I just can't tell you how much better it gets. And so
But
it is worth it. But I have to say, all of these things, this
yeah,
list,
yeah,
if you only applied these things to your marriage,
yeah.
Right?
Right.
That's good marriage advice by itself.
Exactly.
This is a good book, Cheryl.
Thank you so much.
It really is. Okay.
Thank you so much, girl.
Okay. So, another one, we got the time to think. We really need to be thinking. And that kind of goes along with the journaling. That's kind of jumping. No, it isn't. It's right next to it. Well, the writing.
Well, the lost
Writing
art of
things
writing.
down.
So that can be a lot of things. So
Yeah.
one, that can be a journaling thing. It can also be, and this is kind of a little side note with things we don't really do in our culture much anymore. We do write texts, and listen, I've been guilty of this. Been somewhere with somebody, oh my gosh, send a text. Oh, thank you so much. That was so. Have we thought about sitting
Mhm.
down and writing a note? Have you ever thought about writing a letter to somebody that maybe has popped up in your heart and they were an influence for you? Or, maybe they're going through a tough time. I don't know, but writing in general has just kind of taken a back seat, except for authors, maybe,
We read
you
all
know?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I write in my journal. I don't, when I have my quiet time, I have literally, I've given up having journals. I have notebooks because I need the
yeah.
full page. Um, another thing that I thought of the other day when I was thinking about our marriage. Um, I have a box, a wooden box that my husband made for me when I was 17. And he made it for me because my sister would find the notes that he wrote to me in school and
Yeah.
she would read them. And he had sent me letters and cards, and he wanted me to be able to lock them up because my sister would get into them. Well, lo and behold, I still have that box.
Oh my gosh,
And
that's amazing.
inside of it, I have letters over, well, until we got married. 20, I was 19 when we got married. So I have, 6, 7 years worth of letters. And when I would
Wow.
go to my grandma's, he'd write me every single day. And every single day, another letter would come.
That's
And I
amazing.
have those in a box.
That's so fun.
But I think that, I mean, you can't always do that. But what we can do is save the cards.
Yeah.
People give cards.
Yeah.
And although I've seen a lot of that's going out too. Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
get a gift, there won't be a card because
Yeah.
they're expensive.
They are expensive.
Duh,
How
so
in the world
expensive.
did that happen?
I don't know. But I know, like at Mardell's, we can get the cute little box. It doesn't even have to be on the outside, but it's putting your
Right.
heart on that. My daughter-in-law is really good at. She sends handwritten letters all the time. She
That's
buys
amazing.
cards, and so I think that it can come back, but it's going to be people that are intentional about loving other people well.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
think that's part of what you're describing here.
Well, and
With
also with journaling, I've journaled since, I mean, literally for 30 years, but it really can help you kind of sometimes you can call it a mind dump, you can call it whatever you want. Sometimes it's very organized, but other times you can journal prayers if you want. But sometimes I just need to get things out of my mind onto paper. So it could be if someone was reading it, they'd be like, "Is this person crazy?" Like, "My coffee cup's really warm." Okay. You know?
you're
Oh god,
thinking,
yeah, I'm thinking, yeah.
it's good.
But I also think, we can tend to be I read a great article on gratitude. We can be cynical and critical, or are we gonna choose to be grateful?
Hmm,
And I think it's really important for us to think about that. There's so many things to be grateful for, and we
yeah,
can all easily be critical and cynical.
yeah. Do you have a gratitude journal?
I don't, but
I don't either. Like, how
no, but
can you and me not do that? All
I
we
don't know.
do is write.
I know, it's true.
And
Mm,
Caroline Leaf, she has a thing that says at the end of every day, or at least at the end of the week, write down one thing that you're grateful for and just put it in a
yeah,
glass jar or in an envelope. And at the end of the year, pull them out and it'll all be there.
yeah,
And
it's
I
so
thought, well, it'd be easy to write in the journal, but obviously I'm not doing that. But
yeah.
if I thought it was a game, I might do it, right?
Dude, yeah.
Make it fun, I'll do
Also
it.
think, um, the one thing I really stuck on in the book is the lost art of paying attention. I think we've lost that to where not paying attention in the moment, um,
Mm.
or paying attention to what's going on. Jeff and I went out to eat last Saturday night, and we were sitting between, there were two girls on this side and two guys on this side. And we ended up like, and I thought of this when we were driving home. So we had a ball because we got to know these two girls over here. We got to know these two guys over here. We had tons of laughter. We just had a great time. And I thought, gosh, now I wonder if I hadn't said, or she hadn't said, or this guy hadn't asked Jeff a question, if we hadn't engaged. And these girls did not know these guys over here. I mean, these were all, I mean, our night was so rich because we were all kind of paying attention, right? And so, are we paying attention to what's around us, the people around us, I don't know, what's actually being said, what's actually going on? Um,
And
some,
some of it is and when the phone interrupts,
oh,
that's not good.
yikes. No.
I don't think I don't think
Anyway,
we have to convince anyone that that's not a good idea. I think we all agree that that's not a good idea. So leading
yeah.
into that is the lost art of conversation,
hmm
which you're a good conversationer.
Thank you.
I make up words.
I think we have to challenge ourselves on this. Um, I think it's something to be learned. I don't think we're all just naturally deep conversationalists. And I think a lot of that comes from fear. I think we can talk about the weather, and we can talk about our tasks, and we can talk about, just, I don't know, a certain show or something. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that. What I learned is I don't always have to have a deep conversation. But when I'm having deeper conversations, the need for a deeper conversation doesn't exist as much because I'm having them.
Mm.
And I know for women, I know this was the issue, and Jeff and I talk about it very, very bluntly, and when we share our story. But in our first marriage, we were not connected emotionally. We didn't have deeper conversations. We had a lot of surface conversations, things that were pretty shallow. And honestly, I'm the one that said I was really lonely, and I was, but he was too. He just didn't really realize it. And so I think it's something that has to be learned and desired, and get the fear factor out of the way, because when the fear factor is out of the way, we can be more vulnerable, which then leads to deeper conversation.
You know what? That's a really, really good point. That it has to be learned. And so when you said that, I'm like, then are we teaching it?
That's a good point.
Because as we learn something, we can teach it. But if we don't
Mhm,
really know it, then we're probably not going to teach it.
mhm.
And are we teaching like, just getting your kid from school? Like, how was school?
Yeah.
Like, what did you do? Instead of like, who'd you sit with at lunch?
Yeah. Right.
What did they have? Like, and learning how what a conversation is you going into their moment, you going
Mhm.
into the cafeteria with
Yeah.
them and ask them like, general, how was your day?
Yeah.
It's so funny, my husband walks in the door every day. I'm like, how's your day? I'm like, why am I doing that? I, but it's
Yeah.
such a habit that we've had over 40 years that it's just what I do. But I
Yeah.
know that I'm not really asking to be, it's almost like, hi, how are you?
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that. But
Yeah.
it's just a greeting. But still, even if you ask, hey, how was your day at school? You can still choose to go to the deeper level and
Yeah.
start out on the shallows and then go to the deeper. Because one of
Well,
the things,
I think
go ahead.
a good point is just ask good questions.
Mm,
Be interested. We're all good at talking about ourselves, but do we ask others good questions about
mm.
them?
That
It's
would be a
amazing.
good PDF.
Yeah, that would. Yeah. So,
Do it in your spare time.
yeah. Oh, anyway.
So what are some good questions to ask your husband?
Um, I think, Jeff goes to the gym every day, so I ask him a lot of times, did you run into anybody interesting? Um, Jeff is they think he's a pastor at the gym.
He just
But
glows.
I mean, he's funny. So he works out with this, well, he used to be a young guy. He's like 42 now. But they've been working out for 20 years together. It's almost like it is like a son does. And they're intentional about talking to other people at the gym. And I just think, asking him about that, asking him how he's actually doing. I really was tested these last couple years, um, because Jeff is he's just such a positive person. He doesn't want to burden anybody. So he isn't quick to complain. And so, gosh, going through what he was going through, and really us going through what we were going through, it was different than what happened with Lauren. Lauren is our daughter. This was my husband.
Mhm.
And that thought of, um, wow, this is my husband. He and I are a team. Uh, Man, this is tough stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, and so really just tapping into he was just I mean, he was the one going through everything in a sense
Mhm.
physically, but he was always tapping into how I was doing. Like, "Well, how are
Yes.
you doing? Gosh, you're working overtime to." We've always been healthy eaters, so that's why part of it was such a big surprise too. But um, you know, him caring about how I was and us both asking each other those types of questions or being patient with the other or there for a bit of time. I mean, he was so tired that I
Mm.
mean, he would take two naps during the day and then go to sleep at 8 o'clock. And I mean, it was, and I all I could think of was, there's probably a lot of people that would get impatient with this. And God tests us and um, really sees where you are, where you're committed. And man, when these new seasons come in your life, you don't get to choose them. And so then what do you do with them and how do you thrive in them? And so, you know, I'm not saying I never got frustrated.
No.
I'm just saying, you got to really think. You got to really be paying attention and
Isn't that when you really need to already have that foundational stuff?
yeah,
You
yeah,
already have to have that, and why working on your marriage and working on your own spiritual health is
yeah,
so important because you never know when
yeah,
something like that is going to pop up.
yeah.
It's like they said
And
in that commercial that I know all the moms know, like when you're getting ready to have an accident is not the time to decide whether you have the right car seat.
yeah,
You know,
right.
that's
Yeah,
kind of how.
exactly.
Well, that's
So
great.
anyway, yeah,
Do some more. I know I've kept you, and
yeah,
but let's look at the rest of these real quickly because the being at home and sharing meals and community, which is not in here, but this is about community. Can you
yeah,
talk to those lost arts? Because I think since I'd like to say that it was since COVID, but I really don't want to blame COVID because I
yeah,
think it was already going that with that bad word, that busy word. Because
yeah,
you know how it is with where we live. I know now from now I know we really
yeah,
do live in a really high traffic, busy area up here in our Dallas area,
yeah,
and it's city life
yeah,
because my country friends don't live like this.
yeah, exactly.
So,
I think just when I say the lost art of being at home, there's a lot of things there. One is your home a peaceful place?
mm,
do you create that peace in your home? I always feel like the woman in the home should make your home a safe haven for your family or just your husband or, whatever. Um, if you don't want to be home, why is that? I would ask that question. What are we trying to escape from, maybe? Are we entertaining ourselves doing other things? Can we just rest at home? So a lot of these kind of go together. I
Mhm.
think making it a point, and I get it. I mean, I counsel a lot of women that, you know, every kid is in a different sport and they have, all these things,
Yeah,
and they
totally.
don't share, meals. But I mean, I think being intentional about making that part of your week, maybe it's not 7 days a week, but there is a lot of joy that comes through sharing meals together. There's so much that happens that you're not really prepared for necessarily. It could be a conversation. It could be just, your togetherness and the peace that brings, but you're not really realizing, the togetherness is such a big deal. I mean, I think there's just a lot there. I think, letting yourself laugh,
Mhm.
you know,
Playfulness. The playfulness one was
playful.
excellent.
Yeah. And then just, noticing the moment and the lost art of courage, I think there's a lot in that, but I
Mhm.
think, being courageous enough to think about thriving. So that's kind of my overarching thing.
Right.
But if you're not courageous, you have a lot of fear usually. So it's kind of
Mhm.
tapping. I asked a girl the other day, I want you to write this question down. What are you afraid of? And she thought, oh my gosh, no one's ever asked me that.
Yeah.
And she's like 40. And I thought,
Uh-huh.
wow, like, and so once we start tapping into that, um, then we can learn maybe where we feel weak and where we can grow and be courageous in certain things. I think also I talk about in here too, God created us all with gifts and talents. And do we know what those are?
Mm.
I mean, have we ever sought that out? Have we ever, just here's the way I kind of put it. If something really excites you, there's a really good chance it might be a gift you have, you know?
Oh yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
you and I are both really, really love the Clifton Strength Test. We
Yeah.
both love that. And I love it because all 32, 34 of those traits are good.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. As much as I do it with the women that I coach, it is always so fun to watch them say, I love mine. I would hate yours.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you said.
Yeah.
You just kind of love it. And
Yeah.
knowing that also allows you to think, it's okay. These are mine. This is who I am. It's that self
Yeah.
discovery, like, this is me. I don't have to be you. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Neither one is better.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
anyway,
good.
yeah, girl.
Well, I'm telling you, this is a great book. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I always love
I
to be
love
with you.
it.
Great book. Great.
You're the best. I love what
Let's
you're
tell
doing.
everybody how much we love each other.
Oh,
Because community is really, really important. Cheryl and I
mhm.
don't get to see each other all the time because we're both so busy helping other people. But the truth is that when you've connected with someone and you've been vulnerable with them and you have been honest and open, there
Yeah.
is always room for you to hop in.
Yeah.
And, as the moms here, I think moms are lonely, and I think they're hiding behind some stuff, and we just want them to get set free, so they are. If you had one last word, what would it be, Missy? What would you tell a moms like us about thriving?
Well, first thing that popped in my mind was, um, as tough as being a mom can be, as and I don't mean that you don't enjoy it and you don't love your kids, but it is hard. I mean, being a parent is hard. And what I would say now that our girls are, my two are 34 years old, and I feel like they just graduated from high school. I'm like, oh my gosh.
We're so young, Cheryl.
Oh my gosh. But just to enjoy every minute.
Mm,
And yes, you're going to be falling into bed and, you've got the physical years where they take, they're really demanding a lot that way. Then I always say they change and go, now they're more emotional as teenagers and, getting them through college, just remembering that God wants you to steward them well. And that's why some of these lost starts are important because you too, as a mom, God wants you thriving even when you're in this season of raising kids. I mean, God wants you to be thriving. And so it is taking some time to rest. Maybe for you, it's 10 minutes a day. Maybe for someone else, it can be more, or whatever these are, is taking time to think about you putting this stuff into practice.
that's excellent. Thank you,
Yeah.
my friend.
Oh,
All
you're welcome.
righty. We're going to say goodbye to Cheryl, and I am going to talk to my moms. I am. Send you back. Hey there, moms. I just hope that you've really enjoyed this time of talking to Cheryl. Cheryl does have a tremendous heart for women and for moms, and really do want you to thrive. It means a lot to take those lost arts and implement them into your life. God created us for community. He created us for being in the reality. He's told us not to worry about the past, not to worry about the future, but to really be in the moment and soak in the moment because that's where He is. And when there's hard times and when there's fun times, there's always peace that you can find in the middle with the Lord. And without making it too abstract and too spiritual with scripture, I have to tell you, a wise woman builds her house, but a foolish one tears it down with her old hands. With her own hands, she tears down her own house. I don't want you to be like that. I want you to be a wise woman. And a wise woman learns the lost arts and understands them and implements them into her life, and then she's able to teach them to her children. All right, that's all for now. I will see you next time because you know what? Moms like us, we got to do things like this. And when we do, I hope you'll be there. Bye. I sure hope you enjoyed this episode of Moms Like Us Do Things Like This. Sweetheart, we have so much more over on the website Moms Like Us, and we also are on Instagram at Moms Like Us __ and you can just join us over there to learn why we should know what we should know, what we should know. But I have got a little special thing that we have in the Moms Like Us world. It's called the Moms Like Us Academy, and I hope you'll consider it. You can find out more about it on the momslikeus.org website, but it is full of master classes that teach you how. Because, girl, motherhood isn't a natural talent. It's a skill, and you can learn it. But to learn it, you have to know how. And that's where we do it. That's where moms just like us, moms just like you, we make it happen. So I hope that you will go over and join us in the Moms Like Us Academy. Okay, that's it. Bye for now.